Good afternoon, boys and girls. Here we go again. I hope you all doing fine. Stay healthy and out of trouble. All right, we're gonna start with the next lesson, which is finding roots. It's also called zeros of quadratic equations using graph. Everybody know how to find the roots, by factoring. But now we're gonna also do it if I give you a graph, how to find an equation just by getting information from the graph. But as always, we're gonna start with the do now. This is gonna be like a little review, okay, guys? This is just for you to stay in touch with our previous topics. The warm up for that day is supposed to be the following. Given the equation y equals x squared minus 2x minus 3, I have asked you to do like three things from that because this one is a different problem or different way. But I want you to concentrate on the first three because that has to do with that equation. Okay, first, find the discriminant. Remember, the discriminant is what tells me the nature of the roots of a quadratic equation. So if I ask you to find or describe the nature of the root, you have to find the discriminant first. So the discriminant is only the part of the formula that is inside the variable. Remember from the quadratic formula? A lot of you doing the homework did use the quadratic formula and you don't have to. You work too much. So to find the discriminant, remember, that's what we need to work with, okay? Nothing else. So the value of a, b, and c comes from the equation. Remember, the leading coefficient is always a, the middle term is b, and the last one is c. Also, this one is also known as the y-intercept. Remember that, y-intercept. And the leading coefficient, remember, on a parabola, when it's positive, like in this situation, that's going to be happy face. If that would have been negative, it would be a sad face, okay? So sad faces make maximum, happy faces make minimum, all right? That's a little review, all right? So let's start by finding the discriminant. So I'm going to use my equation. So b, what is the value of b? Remember, because the value of b here is negative 2, I have to put it in parentheses so I don't get confused, okay? Because if I don't put it in parentheses, my calculator is not going to square the minus, okay? And that's going to remain negative. And you know that negative to negative will give you positive. That's what is very important to put in parentheses. Minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 3. If you put that on the calculator, right, because I know that's what you guys are going to do, it will give you 16. But I'm going to do one step at a time. Negative 2 squared becomes positive 4 because negative 2 to negative 2 is positive 4. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 to negative 3 is positive 12. So in this case, when I add this up, that is my discriminant. Now remember, the discriminant is 16. And because this is a perfect square, okay? Because there's a perfect square, so the nature of the roots are the following, okay? 2 rational roots. 2 rational and, okay, unequal or different. Okay, that will be the nature of the roots. 2 rationals and unequal roots. If that would have been non-imperfect square, that would have been 2 irrational and still, okay, unequal. So now, find the numbers of x-intercepts. Remember, if you have 2 rational or 2 irrational roots, it's going to touch the x-intercept twice. And if it only has 1, it will be 1. If it has 0, it will be 0, all right? But most likely, a quadratic formula has 2 roots. Now, we have answered a, b, and c using the discriminant, all right? Now, they're asking me, okay, to find the roots or the zeros, okay, using quadratic formula or factoring. Remember, quadratic formula is basically when you're gonna get irrational roots. You know, like decimals or fractions, stuff like that, most likely, all right? Like, not whole numbers. But now you know that this is a perfect square, so your roots is going to be 2 rational numbers. That means it's going to be 2, it could be 2 positive, 2 negative, whatever, but If that's the case, most likely you can use factoring, which is easy. Remember, quadratic formula works for everything. You can factor any quadratic function using quadratic formula. It could be an incomplete, or it can be just a regular standard quadratic function. But now I'm going to use factoring because I know you're going to try that first. When we talk about factoring, we're talking about double. Remember I said double bubble? All right, so let's use that. So I'm going to open my two sets of parentheses, always equal to 0. And remember, if the last term is negative, you need different signs. So it's going to be 1 minus and 1 plus. Remember, it doesn't matter the order, because what it matters is where each number is going to be placed. It can be placed as negative or positive. But remember, in this case, my larger number had to be the negative, because I want my answer for the middle term to be negative. So 1x for me, 1x for you. And obviously, two numbers that multiply them will give you 3, and when you subtract them will give them 2. 3 times 1. 3 times 1 is 1, and 3 minus 1 is 2. And because I want my answer to be negative, so the 3 is going to be negative. All right? And now that I have that, remember that's called factors, okay? So now we have to find the roots doing our T-chart, all right? So what does that mean? That we have to put each bubble equals to 0. And what that means is this one becomes positive and that one becomes negative. So I have my two roots there. And if you notice, two rational roots, because 3 is rational number, negative 1 is rational number, right? Because even though it's an integer, it's part of the natural number, rational numbers. So now that I have worked on my first 4 questions, I'm going to do the next one. The next one is actually the same problem, but now they're asking me to graph it, all right? Obviously, I know a lot of you are going to go to the calculator and find the table. I know a lot of you can do that. But remember, guys, what I always tell, please, if you want to be safe, find the axis of symmetry first, okay? Because I know that my axis of symmetry goes here. Remember, guys, in the middle of the table, not on the bottom, not on the top. Because I'm seeing kids putting the axis of symmetry either here or there, and when they fill the table, they got all these huge, big numbers. And you get scared because say, oh, there's not enough space for me to graph. Of course there is. You will get big numbers when we do like word problems, like real life problems. But at this time, all right, just work and do exactly as I tell you, all right? So I'm going to use my axis of symmetry because it makes it easy for me. Because if I find the axis of symmetry, I can find the rest of my numbers. Then I can go to the calculator, right? And do it. Remember, I'm just going to do the axis of symmetry because the rest I already have done it, and I'm not going to waste any time doing it on the calculator because you're supposed to know that by now. So that's my formula for the axis of symmetry. Remember, the axis of symmetry is always x equals a number, not y equals a number, or not just the number. It has to be x equals whatever you get as an answer. So let's start again. Remember, a lot of you also forget the negative sometimes. So my formula says x equals negative from the formula, but now because the value of b here is negative 2, I must put that in parentheses. Because if I don't put that, my answer becomes wrong. Over 2 divided by 1, which is the value of a, then I can solve. That becomes positive, and if I divide that, my axis of symmetry, x equals 1. In the quiz that I gave you, some of you just put 6. negative 6, and it's supposed to be x equals negative 6. Or if you say, oh, in words, the axis of symmetry is, that would consider incorrect. But remember then, so when I find my axis of symmetry, goes right in the middle, not on the bottom, not on top. So what am I going to do now? Find 3 numbers smaller than 1 and 2 numbers bigger than 1. So smaller, 0, negative 1, negative 2, larger, 2, 3, 4. Now I can go to the calculator and graph this equation, put it on the y equals, go to the table, second graph, and just loop my window on the x-axis from negative 2 to positive 4. So I can find, okay, the values of y of each value of x. I already did it. I'm just gonna write it, and I'm gonna waste time doing the calculator because again, you're supposed to know this already. This is like a little review, okay? So now I have my table. Remember, in some of your homework, some of you have here 21, 27. Come on, of course it's gonna drive you crazy. But now what am I gonna do? Just grab the points. I can start from here, I can start from there, I can start from the middle, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna start from all the way from the smallest, all right? So negative 2, 5, that means 2 to the left on the x-axis from 0 and 5 up. So 1, 2 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. Negative 1, 0, 1 to the left, and I stay right there. 0, 3, I don't move to the right, to the sides, but I'm gonna go down 3, okay? Next, I move to the right 1, all the way from 0, all right, and down 4. So that's my vertex. Look what happened, guys. When I get my vertex, I don't even have to look at the table. I can just open up and just match the other point, make sure they're on the same line. So this is my vertex, this is the minimum. So I move to the right ones and I just match the other point. I move to the right and I match the other point. I move to the right and I match the other one right here. So if you notice, that's my 7 points. Again, when you connect the points, try to make them a little curvy, okay? Do not make lines that makes it look like a line. Parabolas are not lines, please, all right? You don't have to be perfect, right? But we have the idea. A little there, okay. But look, now, look at the graph and name the x-intercepts. The x-intercepts is the same thing as saying zeros, okay? That's just a different word that describes the roots, okay? So the roots are where the parabola crosses the x-axis. So it's right here. And there is negative 1, and here is 3. So remember, the roots or zeros, okay, which is the same thing, can be written like that, separate or with keys, okay? Never use parentheses, because on the quiz somebody wrote parentheses and it was wrong. I marked them wrong because it was wrong. If you use parentheses, you're telling me that that's an ordered pair. You're telling me that one value is x, the other one value is y. When we're talking about the roots, we're talking about the values of x only, not y. All right, so also, I don't know if you noticed too, if you look at the table, look, when y is 0, x is negative 1. When y is 0, x is positive 3. So also, you know that that's what is called the zeros, okay? The zeros of the parabola means the root, means the values of x when the parabola crosses the x-axis. It's a lot of definitions, a lot of words, but they all mean the same. Zeros and roots are the same as x-intercepts, all right? Right now, the question here was, can you find a relationship between the roots you found using the quadratic formula and the graph? Actually, we don't use the quadratic formula, we use factoring. And what happened? When I factor, because the same problem, what do I get? I got 3 and negative 1 as my roots. Remember, you can leave it like that, okay? You could leave your root like that, or you can write it in parentheses, negative 1, comma 3. I mean, sorry, keys, not parentheses. Well, in Spanish, we call them keys. I don't know how they call them in English because they also call them brackets, but brackets are the other ones. So still, as long as they're not parentheses, you're fine. So here is negative 1 and 3. And here, I also get negative 1 and 3. So what do you notice? That they are the same. Okay, so what are we going to do today? Our topic is going to be this. I'm going to give you the graph, and you're going to give me the equation of that graph. And we actually have done that already. I mean, you probably don't remember, we've done it before when we use the sum and the product of the roots, or the reverse of FOIL. So let's do our lesson today. So on the back, we have first problems. Find the zeros of each equation using the given graph. Remember, zeros means roots. which also means x-intercept. Okay, so if you notice here from this graph, you know this is happy faces and sad faces, all right? That means that the leading coefficient of this equation has to be negative, positive and positive. The value of a, that's what it means. So here, it goes through here and through here. So one is -1 and the other one is +4. 1, 2, 3, 4. -2, +2. -4, +2. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right? That's all it's to it. And I think the one I give you, the one in the quiz, I think was something like that. Or I think it was -2 and +4. And so you got it wrong, okay? That's it. Find the root. Is the values of x when the graph crosses the x-axis. Now here, they're asking me to do the same thing, but also they're asking me to write the equation, okay? So find the root of each graph and then write an equation for the parabola. So let me just fold it because I'm gonna need a little space. All right. So the easiest part, roots. Happy face, happy face, happy face, sad face, safe face. So the roots here are 1, 2, 3, -4 and +2. Right? 2 roots. Here, the parabola only touches once the x-axis. That means that's a double root. So this one, the x value here is 3. So that means we have 2 roots. That is called, remember guys, double roots, okay? Because it's the same number. And this one, we have -1 and we have +3. Now, I know we have done this before, you don't remember. If I'm giving you the roots before, you could, and ask you to write the equation, you can use 2 methods. You can use the reverse of FOIL, okay? Or you can use sum and product of the roots. So I'm going to use 2 using the reverse of FOIL and 1 using the product of the roots. Okay, so here, if I want to use the reverse of FOIL, that means that we have to flip the signs. The factors have to be x plus 4, because since it's negative, that has to be positive, times x minus 2, because if that's negative, that's positive, it must be negative. And from there, we do FOIL, all right? X squared minus 2x plus 4x minus 8 equals 0. Family, x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Now, there's only one thing here, guys. They ask you to write an equation, so the equation has to be y equals x squared plus 2x minus 8. So that will be the answer for that one. Now here, remember, I want to use the sum of the roots, right? To use the sum of the roots, remember, the sum equals -b. Remember that? So, what are the roots here? 3 and 3. So you add 3 plus 3 equals -b. 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 equals -b. But remember, guys, you can have a negative variable, so you divide by -1. So b equals -6. Okay? Now the product equals c. So if I multiply 3 times 3, I get 9. So c equals 9. Now that I have, okay, 8 and b, b and c, I can write my equation. So the equation is going to be y equals x squared. Remember, guys, because that's a happy face and it's always, okay, the first coefficient is always going to be 1 in this case. B, which is -6, -6x plus 9. So that should be the equation for that. You could also have done this. You should have wrote x minus 3 times x minus 3 three times and do the FOIL. All right, I'm just telling you there's 2 possibilities. You can do reverse of FOIL or double of the root. Now here, I'm going to use the FOIL, right? So I know a lot of you feel more comfortable with that. So if this one, the root is negative, so the factor has to be positive. Now this root is positive, so the factor has to be negative. And let's FOIL it, all right? That will give me x squared minus 3x plus x minus 3 equals 0. Now, x squared, when I add these two, negative 2x, okay, minus 3 equals 0. So, the only thing here that it throw me off, or that will throw you off, is that, since remember guys, since this is open downward, okay, because you're using this graph, you have to make this first term negative. So your equation has to be y equals negative x squared minus 2x minus 3. Because if you don't put a negative, that will give you a happy face, which probably is going to give you the same roots, but the parabola is going to open downward, right? All right, so now that we have done 3 of these, okay, we're going to do the last one, remember. Sad face, happy face, happy face. So when you have a sad face, remember you also have a maximum, so you have to make this negative. Although, remember when you do this, now if I give me the equation of a parabola which roots are negative 1 and positive 3, all right? And they don't give me the parabola. So it could be either one, it could be happy face or sad face. But in this case, because I'm working with that parabola, all right, and I can tell that's negative because I have to open downward, all right? So let's go back to the last one and we'll finish, okay? Now listen, with the last one, I know some of you want to tell me, mister, but if I put them in the calculator, I can find the table and I can graph without doing all this. But the idea is for you guys to do this without any graphing calculator. You know, like in the time that I went to school, there was no graphing calculators, so I have to do everything algebraically. So this is what you have to do. Be very, very specific because it's telling you right here. Graph the function, right? They're not asking you using a calculator or giving you or using a table. Using key features of the graph, such as the x-intercept, okay, the y-intercept, axis of symmetry, and vertex. If I have all the information, I can graph the parabola without using graphing calculator. Anything can be done. Remember at the beginning, I give you like a big table, and I gave you the range, you know, so you couldn't just substitute and find the values of y algebraically using that big table. Then I condense it to only the x and y using the calculator. So this one can be done without calculator, just using key values. No, look, when you're looking for the x-intercept, right? We're looking for the roots. Oh, that means the zeros, okay? The same thing, or zeros. Now, to find the roots or the zeros, I have to factor. That's the only way I can do that. Remember, you can graph, but we don't want you to use the calculator this time. We want you to use key, okay, features, okay, keywords. Now, the y-intercept is easy because the y-intercept is always the value of c from the equation. So this one right here is the y-intercept. So I know that if that's my y-intercept, I know the parabola is going to go to this point right here. This is where negative 8 is. So I have 1 point already, all right? Now, the axis of symmetry, remember the axis of symmetry is the line that cut the parabola in half. But for that, you have to use the formula x equals negative b over 2a. And to find the vertex, you just plug in the value of x into the equation to find the value of y, and that will make the vertex. So we already have 1 point, which is the y-intercept. Let's look for the x-intercept or for the zeros. How am I going to do that? Factoring. So to factor, I'm going to do my double bubble, right? Because the last one is negative, I need a negative and a positive. X and x, and 4 times 2. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. We do our t-chart, all right? So x minus 4 equals 0. So that means that this x becomes positive. X plus 2 equals 0. That means that this 2 becomes negative. Now, guys, I have my roots. That means that I know where the parabola is going to cross the x-axis. And it's going to be negative 2 right here, and it's going to be positive 4 right here. So I know it's going to come down this way. Definitely know that. But what can I find? I already have the roots. I already have the y-intercept. So I'm going to use the axis of symmetry to find the vertex. So the axis of symmetry, all right, remember, x equals negative from the formula. The value of b here is negative 2, so I have to put in parentheses. 2 times 1, that's going to give me positive 2 over 2. So my axis of symmetry is 1. That means the parabola had to be cut here right in half. But I'm looking for the vertex. So that will be another point. So if I have the value of x, that means that the value of y will be, when I substitute this 1 into the x's here to find the value of y. So to find the y-intercept, I'm going to write y equals, because remember, f of x is like saying 1 equals 1 squared, because now this x becomes 1, minus 2 times 1 minus 8. If I put on the calculator, I'm going to get my answer. But I'm going to do one step. 1 squared is 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2 minus 8. And if I put on the calculator, I'm going to get negative 9. So the vertex is going to be 1, which is the axis of symmetry, comma, negative 9. So where the vertex is, the vertex will be right here. When x is 1, 9 is here. Now remember, because I know that's my minimum point, right? That means that the parabola is going to bounce back. It's going to come coming down from here, get to here and bounce back. So that means that I can start finding my other side of the equation. So if I move to the right and I'm going to match that point up, that is my other 2 points. But there's a problem here. I need to find the value that goes here and that goes here. Because remember, I need another point that has to go with x is negative 1 and x is positive 3. So what am I going to do? As you're going to do the same thing, and instead of finding, to find the point when x equals negative 1 or when x equals 3, I have to substitute it into my original equation. The same thing we did here to find the vertex, same thing. So let's use 3, all right? So I'm going to make, remember the x here is 3, right? And this is negative 1. So I need the other pair right there. So you have to use either one. I'm going to use 3. So let's x equals 3. So I'm going to substitute in the equation. Y equals, right? 3 squared, you know, because it's positive, the 3 is positive, I don't have to put in parentheses. But if we were to use negative 1, you would have that, put that in parentheses. Minus 2 times x, which is 3, minus 8. 3 squared is 9. Negative 2 times 6 is negative, times 3 is negative 6, minus 8. 9 minus 6 is 3. And 3 minus 8 is negative 5. So I already find my other point. That means that my other point is when x is 3, y is negative 5. So where that point is on the graph, it's right here. So when x is 3, where's my negative 5? Right here, because it goes by 2s, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right here. So what I have to do now is just find the other image, which is right here. Because remember, I was missing negative 1 and 3, and this is the image of the other one. And I have all my 7 points, so I can complete my parabola. You see I'm not making lines. As long as you do something like curvy, right? Nothing straight. I blew it right there, sorry. And the arrows, remember this goes forever to the infinity. And with that conclude our lesson. Please, so this lesson is gonna be for Tuesday and Wednesday. So I expect your homework for Thursday, okay? Because Thursday is, I'm gonna give you today for the lesson and today for the homework, okay? So please try to do your best you can and stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you.